the night pulled itself over the earth like a veil, thick with memory, charged with a silence too heavy to be natural. Somewhere, alone behind walls that once echoed with laughter, your ex sat still, eyes wide open, but not seeing. The truth came not as thunder, but as a whisper too sharp to ignore, slicing through the barrier of falsehood they'd believed for so long. A piece of paper folded in half, a name mentioned in passing, a message long buried, but suddenly uncovered. These became the doorway. The pain didn't scream, it seeped in quietly, dripping through the cracks of a carefully curated lie. They clutched the truth like it was both poison and salvation, trembling without sound, their tears unseen even by the walls that knew their pain best. What they thought they knew about the past had rotted from within, held up by illusions fed to them by a voice they trusted most. Betrayal came not from you, but from the shadow that still lingers behind them, smiling with deceit dressed as loyalty. And in that realization, their breath caught in their throat, choking not from guilt, but from the weight of divine correction. The moon trembled behind torn clouds, as if heaven itself gasped in the silence. A current of divine awareness moved like smoke through the spiritual realm, alerting watchers unseen. The betrayal wasn't just earthly. It crossed into something sacred, something that had been marked by higher intention. God says, this was never supposed to be your burden. You were set apart from the beginning. But the serpent that slithered through the garden of your connections spun its venom with cunning charm. That venom was whispered into their ear, turning them slowly against your light, convincing them that love had to be war. Now they sit among the ruins of their understanding, stunned by the collapse of the lie they once called truth. Their silence isn't peace. It's a cavern carved out by shame and the echo of regret. And still, the one who engineered the chaos remains cloaked in manipulation, untouched. For now. The room around them darkens, though no lights have changed. Shadows stretch longer than they should, curling inward as if drawn to sorrow. A chill enters the space not from weather, but from the brushing of a spirit that has not yet repented. They reach for their phone, but stop. Who would they call now? Now that the web has unraveled and they see whose hand held the thread all along. The truth is a dagger that does not kill, but leaves a wound that never forgets. In another dimension, your spirit glows brighter, untouched by the unraveling, but deeply felt within it. The connection between you still hums faintly, like the final note of a song that once meant everything. And now that the deception has fractured, the truth begins to stretch toward the light. God says the moment of reversal has begun. You will feel the shift in your dreams first. Symbols that once made no sense will now open like blooming warnings. The wind will speak in riddles. The clock will pause at strange hours. These are signs that justice is waking from its long silence. The one who caused this fracture still walks proud, speaking half-truths like spells, unaware that divine eyes are watching. They think the silence protects them. But heaven has already marked the time for their unraveling. Their grip is weakening, and they don't even know it yet. Archangel Michael says the heart that was misled is under angelic observation. No punishment, only revelation. This is the mercy before the storm. For now, they are being led through a field of memories, each step cracking the ground beneath what they thought was truth. Let them walk it. Let them feel it. That is not your journey to carry anymore. The night will grow heavier for them before the light returns. But this is not your weight to hold. You've done your part, endured the war, and now the heavens begin to recalibrate the record. Somewhere across realms, a bell tolls, not for death, but for awakening. Something is rising in the spirit that cannot be undone. The silence after truth is not stillness. It is the breath before a scream. Deep within the spiritual threads connecting souls, something stirs like smoke curling from a candle not yet burned. It isn't over, because someone is still hiding, still holding on to a lie that was meant to bury you. This unseen figure moves in shadows, laughing behind polite gestures, cloaked in innocence, but dripping with spiritual venom. They were the whisper behind your ex's doubts, the hand behind their retreat, the architect of division cloaked in concern. And now, as the walls tremble with divine exposure, they are getting nervous, but not enough to confess. They do not yet feel the full heat of the fire, but it's building behind the veil. Their name is being written in places they cannot reach, and the ledger of their deeds is now visible to forces they cannot silence. They thought your fall would benefit them, that silencing your truth would elevate theirs. But even the shadows must answer to light eventually. This isn't just personal. It's spiritual war disguised as human misunderstanding. You were targeted because your presence carried prophecy, and your union had divine purpose that threatened dark forces hiding in plain sight. God says your silence was power, not surrender. They mistook your withdrawal for weakness. But you were being hidden for protection, moved out of harm's reach while the storm gathered. The betrayal they planted has grown roots, but now it's sprouting thorns, and those who watered it with lies will soon bleed by their own hand. A name was spoken recently, your name, in a conversation laced with panic. The one still hiding is trying to rewrite the story again, spinning a new web, desperate to deflect what's coming. But this time, it won't work. The spirit realm is already set in motion. Archangel Michael says the accuser's tongue is being bound. Their words, once sharp enough to sever trust, now coil back into their own mouth, choking the power they once wielded. You may feel a strange calm in the coming days, not absence, but the hush before divine confrontation. It is not yours to fight. It is already being handled. Behind your ex's eyes is a storm they can't escape. Flashes of memory flicker like lightning, each one revealing a moment they misjudged, misunderstood, or were manipulated into silence. They remember your voice, calm, certain, pleading with truth, and how they walked away believing something rotten dressed in righteousness. The betrayer walks close to them still, feeding poison in small doses. But now it tastes different. Now, something in the spirit is twisting the flavor into bitterness, and they can't understand why their trust suddenly feels wrong. That's because heaven is intervening, pulling away the mask. You'll feel it too. Sudden waves of clarity, moments where the air feels electric, and you can see through things you once tolerated. That's discernment sharpening. That's spiritual compensation rising. What was once hidden is now becoming obvious to those who need to see. There will be confrontation soon, not with shouting, but with revelation. An email, a message, a voice crackling under the weight of guilt. These are how the first fractures begin. The betrayer's fear will grow louder than their pride, and their actions will no longer line up with their excuses. God says the truth has a heartbeat now. It is pulsing through timelines, whispering to the future, rewinding through the past, collecting evidence only heaven can gather. Every false word spoken against you is now being held in sacred balance. The scale is moving, and the hand of divine correction is tipping it. You don't need revenge. What's coming is justice that teaches, exposes, and restores. The one who hurt you may cry, but the one who lied will shatter, not by your hand, but by the hand that sees all and forgets nothing. The betrayer once prayed over you with poison in their mouth, blessing you with one hand and cursing with the other. They used your name like currency, spent your story to buy their own narrative. But the receipt is in the hands of the divine now, and the bill is due. Archangel Michael says the sword of truth is drawn, not to destroy, but to divide what is real from what was fabricated. The moment is near. You may feel pressure in your chest, like your spirit is bracing. That's not fear, it's alignment. You're being prepared to witness without interference. The clouds are gathering in a way that the earth doesn't understand. People around you may act strange, distance themselves, or speak in riddles. That's because the energy around you is shifting so drastically. It's making lies uncomfortable in your presence. Someone will soon slip. A word will be said that wasn't meant to escape. An email not meant for your eyes will land in your lap. You won't have to look for the truth. It's walking toward you now. The betrayal that was meant to erase you has become the very stage where your name will be restored. This is only the beginning. Let the story unravel. There is movement in the night that the human eye cannot trace. Threads weaving, spirits aligning. Echoes from past choices colliding with the present. Your ex is no longer sleeping well. They toss in bed sheets that feel colder than they should, as if something divine is laying beside them, whispering of mistakes that cannot stay buried. The air is heavy with unfinished sentences and spiritual residue. The lie they believed has decayed into something that stinks in their soul. And no amount of denial can mask it anymore. Each time they try to breathe it away, a memory returns, clearer, louder, impossibly sharp. A conversation replays in their head that won't be quiet. One where you spoke your truth with trembling grace, only to be met with silence forged by someone else's poison. Now that silence screams in their ears louder than any apology could. The betrayer still walks tall, but the ground beneath them is beginning to tremble. Their dreams are breaking, pieces of shadowed faces and strange lights, fragments of guilt they cannot explain. What they once did with impunity now begins to haunt them from beyond the veil of comfort. God says truth echoes louder in the dark. And in this darkness, your name shines with divine resilience. You were never erased. You were refined, and now the fire that once burned you is warming your rise. The enemy tried to shape a false ending, but the author of time is rewriting the climax. You are awakening now, and the world around you feels brittle. That's because what once stood against you is crumbling beneath its own weight. The betrayer is unraveling, thread by invisible thread, and your ex is watching it in real time, unable to stop it. Archangel Michael says the eyes of the spirit world are on them. No longer can they move without consequence. No longer can they breathe deception without drawing notice. The angels have seen enough. The veil is thinning, and justice is no longer delayed. It is approaching with divine silence and precision. Your ex tried to suppress the truth, but the truth was never buried. It was planted. And now it grows through concrete, cracks through timelines, erupts in whispers they cannot escape. They see your face in the mirror of memory and know now that they chose wrong. But it's not only regret, it's revelation. They realize they weren't simply misled. They were spiritually deceived, manipulated by someone who masked control as care and sabotage as protection. And once the scales fall, they can't go back. You may feel a sudden shift in energy, unexplained headaches, waves of sadness that aren't yours, dreams where you walk through burning fields but remain unharmed. That's your spirit passing through the smoke of old lies being consumed. You are being purified in silence. The betrayer is trying to rewrite the past again. They're reaching out to others, spinning new stories, desperate to control a narrative that's slipping from their grasp. But their words fall flat now, even to those who once believed them blindly. God says there is no hiding in this season. What was done in whispers will now be shouted in the Spirit. What was hidden beneath fake smiles will now show in trembling hands, shifting eyes, and fractured peace. The divine spotlight is merciless because it shines for healing, not humiliation. Your ex has started asking questions, not out loud, but deep within, to the corners of themselves they've avoided. The answers are coming not through people, but through patterns. They're starting to notice divine symmetry, the lies no longer lining up, the stories no longer making sense. Archangel Michael says divine clarity is mercy before judgment. The betrayer still believes they can avoid consequence, but already their words are failing them, and the spirits they've invoked, spirits of confusion, jealousy, deceit, have begun to turn on their master. They opened doors they cannot close. And you, chosen one, you are being lifted even now. Your glow is returning, not as the warmth of hope, but as the fire of redemption. The next time they see you, they will not recognize what they left behind. Your presence is becoming a mirror. To see you will be to see the lie, and they will either run or repent. This season is one of exposure. Trust what falls apart. Trust what feels misaligned. Because the divine is displacing what cannot follow you forward. You are not being punished. You are being cleared for elevation. The spirit realm speaks now through signs. Birds flying against the wind. Clocks freezing at 4:44. songs you haven't heard in years, playing at precise moments. These are not coincidences. These are spiritual notifications. The betrayer feels it too. They've begun to avoid mirrors, avoid silence, avoid eye contact. Because in every reflection, in every quiet moment, your face returns, not as a victim, but as the one who survived. And heaven will not allow them to rewrite what truly happened. Their efforts to reshape the past will be crushed by divine truth. The timelines are realigning. You are the pivot point. Everything changes from here. It begins without warning, the unraveling of false peace, the collapse of illusions carefully stitched together by betrayal. Your ex has started seeing through the fabric, but they don't yet know how deep the rot goes. Their body reacts before their mind does, heart racing at the mention of certain names, skin crawling in familiar rooms that no longer feel safe. Something sacred inside them is waking up, scratching against the glass of denial. It's a soul-level recognition that the person who played rescuer was actually the architect of their confusion. They feel watched, not by people, but by presence. Something invisible, vast, and ancient. The betrayer knows time is slipping. Their manipulation no longer lands. The tones that once soothed now sound hollow, metallic, almost cursed. Even their gestures feel off. Too perfect, too rehearsed. You have not spoken, but your silence has grown teeth. They sense your absence differently now, not as loss, but as judgment, not as longing, but as revelation. They begin remembering moments where you saw what they didn't, when you paused, hesitated, looked behind someone's smile with suspicion. God says the bells of justice are ringing now. Your ex hears them in strange ways. Alarms that go off without cause. Lights flickering in rooms they're alone in. Phones glitching during certain names being spoken. These are not malfunctions. These are divine malfunctions, glitches in the matrix of deceit. Archangel Michael says protection surrounds your name. You are not just out of their life. You've been lifted from their frequency entirely. That's why they can't touch you even when they try. Spiritually, you are vibrating at a level they can't access, while deception still clings to them. But your name still stings in rooms where you are no longer mentioned. The betrayer flinches every time someone even hints at your strength. They try to downplay you, but their voice trembles. The divine has reversed the mirror. Every insult sent your way now reflects back into their own life. Your ex has begun connecting dots. The betrayal wasn't an accident. It was a campaign. A slow dismantling of your worth behind your back. and the one who engineered it is still pretending nothing happened. The divine, however, is not pretending. God says there is no rest for the wicked in this season. The betrayer now finds their dreams haunted by your face. Not suffering, not begging, but rising, glowing, transformed. Their heart rate spikes when they wake, unsure whether it was a nightmare or a prophecy. That confusion is the beginning of spiritual accountability. Your ex walks through their days like a ghost now, not because they are haunted, but because they are beginning to see how much they missed, how blind they were made to be. The fog is lifting, the smoke is clearing, and what they see behind it is monstrous. The betrayal was not just about lies, it was a theft of destiny. The person who turned them against you wasn't just jealous. They were spiritually threatened by what you carried, by the blessing you embodied, by the power you hadn't yet even tapped into. They worked in shadows because they couldn't stand your light. Archangel Michael says their influence ends now. The cords are being cut. The soul ties are snapping. You may feel it as sudden fatigue or unexpected peace. That's the sensation of spiritual debris being cleared from your energy field. The betrayer is growing desperate. Their lies are fraying at the edges, and they know it. You'll hear their name come up suddenly. Stories from people you didn't expect will surface. The divine is using unsuspecting messengers to pull back the curtain. Your ex is no longer an ally to your pain, but they are not yet a participant in your justice. They stand at a crossroads, trembling. Part of them longs to reach out, to confess, to weep. But something darker is still gripping their throat: shame, fear, and pride. You will not be the one to save them. That time has passed. Now it is between them and the divine. You've graduated from that battle. You no longer belong in the pit of confusion. You are being elevated into clarity so sharp it cuts through dimensions. You may feel invisible hands on your shoulders during the night, cool, steady, filled with fire and comfort. That is no hallucination. That is the hand of heaven, keeping you from turning back, keeping you from wasting even a drop of your anointing. God says you were never abandoned, only hidden for protection. The veil is thin, and the betrayals are catching up with their origin. The spiritual debt is heavy, and those who danced in deception must now pay. You, however, are being compensated, not in bitterness, but in brilliance. They will watch your blessing rise like smoke from holy fire, and they will know it could have been shared, but it was forfeited. Your name is being written in divine ink across new gates, gates of favor, gates of protection, gates of irreversible elevation. And the betrayer, now unraveling, will only see you from a distance. Their hands pressed against glass they can't break. Archangel Michael says the war is over, but the judgment has just begun.